Don't laugh, everyone.
Hi, welcome to PunchlineGloucester.com. Punchline talks the business breakfast briefers. I'm Mark Owen, and each week I invite a panel of business experts to review the morning newspapers, find out what's happened in their own individual business and their own individual business sectors, and finally, what's caught their eye in this week's Punchline. But before I start, I just want to thank our fantastic sponsors, Hazelwood's Accountants and Business Advisors. Okay, let's meet the panel. Today we've got the Very Reverend Andrew Zihni, the Dean of Gloucester Cathedral. Easter is one of the cathedral's busiest periods, but what does it mean for it financially? So we'll find about that. When is it planned? How many people go through the door? And how many people are involved? So I'm looking forward to hearing all about that from Dean Andrew. Great to see you again. Thanks for joining us. We got
Thank
Daniel
you.
O'Neill, co-founder of ProCook. The company has 68 stores, 800 staff, a turnover of approximate 7 million. 18 months ago now, Daniel stepped down from the day-to-day running of the business. However, we'll find out how important is this Easter period for trade and for business, what the latest kitchen trends are, and also what's he working on next. So looking forward to that. We got Sarah Tyler Phillips, CEO of Career Voyager, a company that brings strategic focus to people at critical points in their career, helping the over 50s back into work. So we'll find out how do we get more people over a certain particular age back in, and what's the real value of life experience. So looking forward to hearing from that from Sarah. And finally, never last not least, we got Neill Ricketts, graphene guru, ex-chair of the Forest Dean Economic Partnership. He's now the chair of Gas Sensing Solutions, a company based in Scotland. So we'll find out more about that. Pure air, not hot air, as he says. And a few months ago, he became a dad again for the seventh time with twins. So congratulations to him and Jenna. Okay, let's see what's making the headlines, courtesy of the BBC today. And before I start, look at that little plug for ProCook. But let's get to the headlines. Okay, the Daily Mail. Harry's secret trip to Ukraine. The Daily Telegraph. Harry's secret trip visit to Ukraine. The Guardian. Further market turmoil as White House says China tariff 145%. The Times. US deal with not less than 10% tariffs, Britain told. The Eye. UK moves closer to softer Brexit as hopes fade for quick US deal. The Financial Times. Brussels open to taxing big tech if Trump talks fail. The Daily Express. Concrete proof Britons want to right to die choice. The Sun, Greg's bake and take. Shoplifters crisis shames UK. The Mirror, the pundit Prince. I don't even watched him. He was fantastic. Was Prince William? The Metro. I love all these memes. This memes war. The Daily Star. Man is turning into a lunar landscape. One giant heap for mankind. And basically, the story of the premise is that all the astronauts have been leaving their poo behind on the moon. Who would have thought we just leave a mess wherever we go, aren't we? Terrible. Thanks so much for the panel to join us. Neill, let's start with you today. What have you picked out from the papers, please?
So the main story I picked out was the economy growing by 0.5%. Obviously, a change from last month. You have to feel as though it's slightly going to change again in the near future. Strongest indicator for me was that manufacturing had a bit of a bounce back, and that's been a long trend of going down. So for me, glimmers of possibility. Obviously, the big issue that everybody's talking about are the Trump tariffs and what's going to happen there. It's been a very turmoil or a time of turmoil in the markets, and for me, anybody that's involved in business wants stability and constant growth, and it's very difficult to plot a journey in such turbulent waters, if you ask me.
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. Okay, anything else you got for us?
And there were a couple of other stories. Obviously, I've talked about the tariffs already. That's the main thing that I keep an eye on at the moment. There's the soft Brexit that you brought up in your talk. I feel as though the UK now is kind of stuck in the middle. We've kind of aligned ourselves to the US. We don't seem to be that well aligned to the US now, and we're not aligned to the EU either. We're very much a small island floating off the coast of France. So I think we have to be very careful. And obviously, we've still got war going on in Europe, and that can never be a good thing, especially if history repeats itself. So it does feel as though there are lots and lots of opportunities, but it is bloody hard work at the moment. And I think there's a really really good book by Napoleon Hill and about the 1930s, and it talks actually. I know we've got the dean here about faith and about having conviction, and those are all required in spades at the moment. So you know, we've just got to accept that those are the conditions that we're trading under the moment and make the most of it. So
Yeah,
that's
but it's a difficult time, especially with the government. It's all kicked in now, isn't it? National insurance contributions, the minimum wage, all kicked in this month as
well,
well.
I had 20 letters from the taxman in about three weeks, in one form or another, PAYE, VAT changes, council tax for the house, council tax for the business rates. They are pretty much full on at the moment, and anybody involved in business will be feeling the pressure. I know that later on we'll talk about, unfortunately, JFC, Jones Company in Lydney going into administration, which is a big challenge for the area because it's one of two really really big projects. It's where I did my apprenticeship. It had kind of died as its first incarnation and then been brought back but then appears to have gone into a bit of trouble. My thoughts go out to the 61 employees that have been made redundant.
Yeah, and the knock-on effect for all of us as well. Really, really sad. Thanks ever so much for that, Neil. Dean Andrew, I'm going to bring you in. What have you picked out from the papers? It's great to see you again.
Good to see you too. Mine is a rather lighter-hearted story, which I saw in the Telegraph, which was about the best and worst Easter eggs on the market, according to their taster, who went through a whole range of different Easter eggs and tried them. This particularly struck me because those who know me well will know that I'm afraid I'm a bit of a chocoholic. And so Lent is quite a tricky time giving up chocolate. But also, I think there is the wonderful imagery of Easter eggs as well, which is that sense of new life and transformation emerging from the egg, which is, of course, the heart of the message of the Easter story. So those are things that particularly struck me. But I was very interested to see in this article exactly what came out on top and what didn't.
Okay, what did come on top?
Well, what came out on top was the Waitrose croissant Easter egg. I don't know if colleagues have seen that. I've seen a lot of advertisement for the Waitrose croissant Easter egg, and it looks delicious, but I haven't tried it yet. But that was the number one Easter egg, apparently.
Okay, I'm going to quickly ask the panel. Okay, Daniel, what's Easter egg do you have?
Ooh, um, uh, probably. Oh, that's a good question. Lint, I think probably.
Sarah, Easter egg?
Marks and Spencer's. My mum buys it for me, so that's great. I'm so lucky.
Neil?
Be a toss up. My mum and dad buy me a Thornton's, but or used to, but Yorkie's my favourite, and I know my wife's is Galaxy. That's the most important one to get. So
Okay, I've got my wife loves Cadbury's cream, Cadbury's eggs. They're in the cupboard behind me. Anyway, moving swiftly on. Thanks ever so much for that. Okay, Daniel, what have we picked out for the papers today?
With a continuing trade war, it just seems to me that um, the US is in a really peculiar position, more and more isolated, whether it's Ukraine, Middle East, world trade, as we've seen, climate control, World Health Organization. They sort of want to be in charge when it suits, and when they don't, they just throw their toys out the pram. And it just makes me wonder. Yes, they are 26.5% of world trade, but Europe, Canada, and Asia are 65%. And
Mm.
we actually got ourselves sorted out and got a trade tariffs between sort of those three areas. The US loses a lot of its dominance, and would that be a bad thing in the world at the moment? Because it just seems they're abusing that power.
Well, he's a bully, isn't he? Let's be honest
He's
about
a
it. This is
bully.
what it is. He's a bully, and he's always been a bully, and he's got some power. I was reading in the papers today also how he's kicked out, how he's treating the press. So there are members of the press now, press corps, that aren't allowed to go to those meetings. They're not actually invited along. And the other thing they're doing is they're not actually telling them key facts that is happening as well, which is all about democracy. If you don't have a freedom of press, you don't have a democracy. And I'm very, very worried the way that America is moving at the moment as well. As we during the election, it was warned, wasn't it? And we're seeing it now. And anyway,
Mm.
and of course you've got his mates all creaming it in as well. With it sounds like with stock selling stocks and shares and stuff. I don't know. It's scary, scary times.
It is
Thanks
scary.
ever so much for that, Daniel. Otherwise, we could talk about that all the time. Sarah, let's bring you in. What have you picked out for the papers, please?
Yes, I wanted to. Well, the job market's very tight at the moment, as you probably know. So in the news today and all of the press, it's talking about additional seekers chasing fewer vacancies. And I don't know, I'm sure a lot of people out there have applied for jobs, but when you apply for roles in 2025, it's brutal, inhuman, endless, and rude. So quite often the computer says no, the human's been taking out a lot of this process. And perhaps if you're a certain age or certain, certain number of years in your career, you fit into a job box, but otherwise it's very difficult to do that. So it's quite brutal out there. And, if you do go along to the job centre, depending on who you are, sometimes they can help and sometimes they can't. But if they send you to Indeed or, an online job site to apply for a role, you've only got a 10% chance of landing a role through an online job site. So I think we need to think differently about this. And it's not all doom and gloom. I just think we need to think very differently about how we hire people, and we need to look creatively at resourcing and
Because your
recruiting.
son has just got a job at Renishaw as an apprentice as well, hasn't he?
He's just got on a degree, a apprenticeship program at Renishaw. It's amazing. We've got some amazing companies locally. I do a lot of work on, the amazing companies we've got here, and degree apprenticeships are a great way to go. But it's super, super competitive. I mean, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of young people applying for those roles. Only a few people get them. So what about all the other young people? And what about a system where we could, those young people who have applied for those roles perhaps can go to another engineering organization or another organization? It's about talent pooling that young talent, because there's some great kids, and I think when you're young and you go through that, you've been rejected, and he's been rejected for a number of roles, then it's quite brutal. And I'm not sure if school are giving you resilience or training on how to handle those rejections. I think it has a big impact on mental health. And I do a lot of work with the over 50s as well. So kind of young people and over 50s are getting the brunt of this, applying for roles and not getting them. It's a real issue. And I think employers need to think about, the humans, the humans at the end of their process. I call it the potential employee experience, but the experience that people go through applying for hundreds of roles or hundreds of apprenticeships and then getting no, 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 or just ghosted and ignored, like really bad dating, actually. I think there needs to be a whole new rethink about how we work this. And I think older people need to be working with younger people. Perhaps younger people haven't got the employability skills. So instead of people retiring off a cliff, you retire them more slowly. I think it's quite exciting because there's a whole lot of exciting stuff that can be done here around productivity, around intergenerational job sharing. But yeah, something needs to be done. So we can do that in Gloucestershire. We ran a 50-50 challenge in Gloucestershire, and we got 50 employers to take 50 people over the age of 50 for 50 hours. And that was a really great way of organizations seeing what these people could do and kind of working with them and seeing perhaps where they could fit in their organization. So work like that, I think we need to do more of. And work experience as well is a big issue. Lots of universities have just stopped doing work experience. And as you remember, I don't know if you had work experience, but that's when you learn what you love and what you don't love. That's when you learn what you like, what you don't like. That's when you really get immersed into work. Like if you Google something, it's not the same as actually getting in the pool, getting wet and learning to swim. Work experience gives younger people and older people that immersion in work. And please, Gloucestershire companies, let's get some work experience schemes going for younger people and older people.
Okay, Neil, got a
I was
something to
just going
say?
to say, if you look at the stories and, companies being under pressure, it's like the perfect storm. So we have an economy which is kind of on the edge. We have kind of people under a lot of pressure. So I'm just involved in recruitment up in Scotland, where we have Scottish Entrepreneurial Society, or I can't remember what they're called, but they're running an intern program, and we're kind of like overrun with people wanting to do internships, and we know we should be doing more. We're a relatively small business, but they're great. The candidates are amazing, and you just want to, you want to take 10 of them, but you would struggle to do that. And I think when you're under pressure and the markets aren't doing well and the economy's not doing well, it's very easy to retreat back, and you don't really appreciate the impact you're having by kind of survival mentality for those opportunities, which just end up going by the by.
No,
We've
without a shadow of
we've
doubt.
recruited. Sorry, Mark. We've recruited over 150 people in the last 12 months, and I do completely hear there are good people who are getting missed, but and I'm not sure Indeed helps. These online platforms help because we will have hundreds of people apply for a job, but they've not really applied for it. They've just ticked a box on Indeed, and you ring them up and say, thanks for applying, and they, oh, I don't know what job have I applied for, and they've got no idea of what they've actually applied for. And then in terms of interviewing, it's over 50% of people now not showing up. I mean,
Mhm.
it has become really difficult to actually find people. So I think there are definitely two sides and I think if I could give a single piece of advice, is if you want apply for the jobs that you're interested in and make the effort to write a covering note and say why you think you're suitable, and then I would almost say guaranteed you would get that interview. And it is just, it's common sense, but it's also just, being polite, just doing the right thing. And it is frustrating from an employer's point of view, how difficult it is now to recruit.
I was just going to say also, because of the rise of the minimum wage, that's not going to help get younger people into work. I also think working from home, I used to take on interns all the time, and I can't do that now. I work from home. We don't have an office to share. I can't have a young 18-year-old person sitting in this office with me, let alone the sort of health and safety and environment, and all sorts of problems it brings. I just think we're going down a really difficult route here. Anyway, we've gone off piece slightly, which is always a good thing on this show. But I hear your frustration, Dan. I really, really do. It's very, very difficult. I'm going to bring you back in, Dean Andrew. Let's talk about Easter. Let's talk about something joyful. Uh, Easter's a very big time for you guys, isn't it? Yourself included. It must be really, really hard work. How many people are you expecting through the doors of Gloucester Cathedral this Easter period?
Yeah, I mean, Easter, like Christmas, is a really key and special time of the year within the Christian calendar. But we hope to see over the course of the Easter period 20,000 visitors, both visiting our different events and activities that are taking place in the cathedral, but also, and more importantly, being part of the worship that's taking place over the course of Holy Week and Easter, which comes up next week. So Palm Sunday begins Holy Week this coming Sunday, and throughout the course of next week, we will be having at least three services each day in the cathedral, and then on Thursday, Maundy Thursday, Good Friday, Easter Eve, and Easter Day, those services will be very special services that tell the Christian story of Easter and remind us of that wonderful theme of God's love triumphing over death in the resurrection, and seeing that transformation and seeing Easter in a new light, which is our theme for this year.
Now, I always think when I watch clergy on, basically, it's a little bit like being on stage, really, if you don't mind me saying. You've got a performance. You put your, is it a cassock? I'm sorry, I'm not a very religious person. It must be terribly tiring as well, Dean Andrew, but exhilarating at the same time.
It is that sense, and you're absolutely right, because as clergy, when we're leading services, we are holding a space. Because what we're seeking to do is to bring people deeper into worship, to bring people deeper into spirituality. So a lot of what we do is about holding that space. And enabling people to go deeper into that sense of the spiritual and in what we portray of the Christian message and that sense of worship. And it is something that's quite tiring with the intensity of it all, but it is also exhilarating because I think the joy of the message of love that we seek to share through the resurrection, I think, in the conversation we've had already, is a message that the world really, really needs at this time with all that's going on. And so I think that reminder of God's triumph over death and sin is something that I think we really need to hear today.
Do you ever watch any other clergy people, clergymen, and then afterwards, after watching their, their speech or whatever, sorry, their
Sermon.
sermon. Do you ever take them to one side afterwards and say, well, if you changed that and did this, and a little bit of advice, as a leader, shall we say, do you do that kind of stuff, or is that not a thing to do?
I think it's more sort of shared learning because one of the good things about being in the cathedral is that there are several of us who minister there, so we have the opportunity to hear and think about each other's sermons and reflections, and I think I learn a lot from my colleagues actually listening to that. So it's as much sort of sharing ideas, and I don't think it's so much, oh, I think you should do this way or do this that way. It's more, actually, I really got a lot from what you said, and they might say to me, "Oh, I really got a lot from what you said." And I think it's that shared learning that's really, really helpful in terms of being part of a clergy team here.
I think you are right, though. In these dark days, I think we all need something to uplift us, whether it's a safe space, someone
Yeah.
speaking really gently to us or nicely to us, or a nice Easter egg from a loved one. I think in these troubling times, we can all do with that, couldn't we? Thanks so much for that, Dean Andrew. Neil, let's bring you back in. How often do you go up to Scotland nowadays, mate?
So I was up there yesterday, actually. So I go up there as much as needed. I fly out of Bristol into Edinburgh, and to be honest, it's a much quicker commute than getting into Gloucester this week. So we've got a great little company up there, great team. We're moving ahead. The business manufactures gas sensors. And to be honest, we're all a bit complacent. We take for granted what we eat, we take for granted what we drink, and we take for granted what we breathe. And unfortunately, especially if you're in London, you notice the difference in the air quality. So these devices are used in everything from baby incubators and ensuring that life gets a good chance at the beginning, right the way through to the European Space Agency. Um, Using it up in the International Space Station and all the way down to the deepest oceans where it's monitoring divers and submersibles. So a really great little company, got lots of opportunities. A very technical business. So working with Glasgow University and other universities such as Lancaster and you know. Kind of moving on quickly, so that's good.
Okay, thanks so much, Neil. Great to see you again. Daniel, let's talk about ProCook just quickly as well. I'm going to bring up the website because I do love your shop, by the way. I go there all the
Yeah.
time. There we go. Can you all see that? There's your website. Can we
Pop
see
over.
ProCook's?
Pop to electrical and coffee.
Okay, where's that? Electricals, coffee. Oops.
Yeah.
There we,
This
there we
is
go.
this is the new category, and we can see the out of stock. So we launched this product, coffee. We've become a real nation of coffee lovers, and we brought out these three or four machines, and they've just absolutely flown off the shelves. It's been very rewarding. Obviously, we're now taking pre-orders on the one out of stock. But yeah, and they went down really well with the press. So And it was a long, probably 2 years in development. But it's really paying dividends.
I mean, where are they manufactured in China, or are they manufactured from all over the place? Don't mind me asking.
No. You're very welcome to ask. Yes, I mean, like China is the is absolutely our production for the world, isn't it? And coffee machines, the particular company that we work with to manufacture this one, manufactures 1 in 20 all small kitchen electrical devices. So I mean, they are making for every brand name that you can think of in the kitchen. They're manufacturing, and they're really good at what they do. They're really good at what they do. The quality is amazing. Yeah, really good.
I mean,
It's been good.
so when you go and look into a product like this, the sort of and the spec, do you look at things? How you look, obviously the ProCook brand, you want to put your stamp on it. What's that sort of process like? You think, or I go to the competitors and think we could do this so much better.
Yeah, definitely. We look to see what's out in the market, whether people are, taking the Mickey price wise. That's always an easy start for us. If there's a market leader out there who is definitely is ramping up the price, that's music to our ears at ProCook, really. So delivering great quality products at affordable prices is what it's all about as a brand.
Yeah,
And obviously then being able to walk into a store and talk to the people, so if you walk into any other store, I won't pick on a particular retailer, but that those people didn't, they haven't had the training on the products like our team have had, because we only sell our products. So it's great that you go and support us at Gloucester Keys, and hopefully, as you say, that service level reflects the fact that we only sell ProCook products.
I have
because
a
you've
bit of
actually.
a ProCook virgin, Daniel, so I will have to go into the shop.
Yeah. Well, there's lots of them now.
The one thing, the service is absolutely fantastic, I must say, and no, it's really good. So what else are you doing at the moment, Dan?
So Life's a Beach, as you know, is a real passion of mine. So this is a charity that I founded probably about 5 or 6 years ago now, I guess. We're trying to eradicate single-use plastics, whether that's organising beach cleans, or we're doing quite a lot. We're targeting to do 12 schools this year, which is going well. We probably will beat that. Just going in and talking to young people about not using single use bottles, and putting them in a bin, and then often in association with that visit we're arranging a clean. We just did a clean with a few companies last week. We did a roadshow of 5 inner city cleans, and we picked up almost a ton of rubbish and Birmingham wasn't one of them, I hasten to add. We picked up, and one of them, we did a playing field close to a school in Manchester, and we picked up a bucket of needles and 4 knives. I mean, it is, it was, yeah, it is. We just throw rubbish. I mean, we just throw rubbish away, and it's. I don't know where and how we started this sort of, not using rubbish bins, taking it home, and it is quite bizarre.
It's quite sad, isn't it? I
It is
remember as a kid, they used to run these advertising campaigns all the time, wasn't it, about putting it in the bin and things. They don't seem
Yeah.
to do it. Unfortunately, we're going to have to move on. Sarah, let's get you back in. Thanks for that ever so much, Dan. I know you've got a passion for getting people, over the 50s into work, and it's difficult, isn't it? Sort of crossroads. We talked about it, you and I, in the past. What the main stumbling blocks, Sarah?
I think it's that kind of putting people in a job box. So I fit into 5 job boxes at over 50 because I have lots of experience. So if you bring me into your business, it's not the one thing I can do. I can do all of the other things as well. But that means that the recruitment system of one job and one person doesn't really work for over 50s. And I think the other thing is we bring so much, experience to to the workplace. So you should have us in your business. We can, we're all, I think hashtag we're all interim managers now, but we don't fit into that small sort of job spec that we would have done when we were in our mid-20s, for example.
Is there a lot more
and it's
people?
tough.
There are a lot more people retired early, or they need to come back into the work, or they want to come back to the workplace.
Yeah. We're living twice as long. So people talk about climate, the big change, tech, the big change, but the other massive change, there's three changes. One is we're living twice as long as we used to. So kind of a 30, 40 year retirement. Is that really what people want? Work brings purposeful, great work brings connection. It brings joy. It brings purpose. That there's lots of great reasons for working, and lots of people retire, build an extension, go around the world, and then they think, what now? So lots of people want to remain working. There's a cost of living crisis, pensions being hit. Lots of people kind of need to work. So yeah, we're living a lot longer, and
I
people
always
want to
worry.
work, basically.
I always worry I'd be bored. That's my biggest fear. If I retired, what would I do? I get bored on holiday. I get bored sitting around the pool reading a book. I have to go to Club Med so I can do lots of sports and keep my, that's my biggest fear. I don't know. Probably do a lot for
So
charity when I'm retired.
yeah,
Thanks ever
and
so
it
much
could
for
be
Sarah.
working for charity, or I don't know, looking after children. There are things that you can do besides working, but lots of people want to work. So
Okay, thanks ever so much. Unfortunately, we're running out of time already. Okay, let's go quickly do the pick of the punchlines. What have you picked out for us? Let's start with you, Dean Andrew. What have you picked out for the punchlines today, please?
So this is a Gloucester Cathedral story, and your coverage of our new Chief Operating Officer and Chapter Steward, who is Barry McMaster, who comes to us from Edinburgh, having been senior bursar of a family of schools there, and then previously having had a career in the armed forces. We're really, really looking forward to Barry joining us on the 28th of April, bringing his huge experience in finance, property, and HR, which is the key areas of that COO role here in the cathedral. So we're much looking forward to having him, and I know he will be a huge, huge asset to the community of the city as well.
Before we go, and Dean Andrew, how much does the cathedral cost to run? How much money do you need to make to keep it all on the road?
I mean, an awful lot. I mean, we have a 10, 11 million pound turnover over the course of a year, something like that. So it is pretty large enterprise, really. And we are, as the cathedral, we are a constituted charity now under the new cathedral laws that there are. So my position as dean and my colleagues as well, we are here as charitable trustees, and I'm the chair of trustees in my role as dean. So there is a significant role in that charitable sphere, as well as the day-to-day spiritual and worship and mission offering that we have as a cathedral.
No, thank you ever so much for that. Okay, Dan, what have you picked down this week's punchline, please?
M&S, their new food store. I will be going along and having a look. I think it's fabulous when you think how much M&S went through the doldrums, and it really has turned around. So yeah, I think it's a great story, and I think we need a strong M&S. It's such an iconic brand. But it did make me smile when I looked at your article about the opening with Peppa Pig and Colin the Caterpillar, and they even got the store manager in it with Mel Tubby, who didn't look at all tubby and looked very gorgeous. But I did think was the name part of the recruitment process in the opening. But yeah.
Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. Okay, Sarah, what have you picked out for punchlines?
Julie Kent, MBE High Sheriff of Gloucestershire. That role, I didn't understand really what it was, but she's brought energy, grace, wisdom into that role. She's made it contemporary and understandable, and she will make a huge and massive difference. And she already does in this county. And I think living in Gloucestershire and working in Gloucestershire and playing in Gloucestershire, we've got this mix between the old and the traditional. I was in the cathedral on Sunday, the singing, the joy, we are so lucky. It's an iconic building. Julie's iconic. But then we've got the tech and the cyber stuff. So, we've got a real mix of both here, and we should really celebrate that. And we must get to the cathedral and sing more often. And
Be very, very
good luck,
welcome.
Julie. You'll be amazing.
Thank you ever so much for that, Sarah. That leads me very nice to the man who started the show. Neill, what's your pick of the punchlines, please?
So mine was your headline: Allstone cements seven-figure deal for Monster Mix Limited. It got a lot of time for Simon Ford, and the impact that business has on communities is huge, and we need these businesses to be thriving. It's hard, it's tough, and there's a handful of people within the county that are really driving, this. Daniel's one, Simon's another. We need these people, and we need to be able to be supportive and helping, and making sure that these deals are happening and that communities are looking after the area. I'd echo what Sarah says. We're very, very lucky in the county. I walk my dogs, and we've got fantastic air to breathe, and great views, and the cathedral is absolutely stunning. My wife works at King's, so I get to see the cathedral quite a lot, and these things are all iconic to the area, and I think it all comes back to good business. We need these businesses absolutely, running on flat out in order to protect the communities in which we all live. So great job, Simon. Really, and I think I agree with you, Sarah, that I'm due to see Julie on Thursday next week, and I can't wait because we need that enthusiasm and that drive from everyone. So.
Okay, thanks so much. Yeah, congratulations to Allstones. My pick of the punchline was actually the tour I did of the £107 million forum. It's moving forward now. It's getting to the exciting stage, and hopefully they get some new tenants. But watch this space very soon. Okay, unfortunately, that's all we've got time for today. I'd like to thank my fantastic panel. Thank you ever so much, everybody, for joining. I'd like to thank all of you for watching today. If you enjoyed the show, please like, share, and subscribe. I'd like to thank my wonderful sponsors, Hazelwood's Accountants and Business Advisors. And we won't be back next week because it's Easter, and then I've got a little break coming down the track. So we'll be back in a couple of weeks. But in the meantime, remember, it's all in the punchline. Thanks ever so much for watching. Bye.